Shirou was born as an ordinary boy to a pleasant family in Fuyuki City, Japan. Yet, while it wasn't at first of any value to him, his essence had come from Akasha with the origin of sword. His infancy is generally uneventful, that is, until the aftermath of the Fourth Holy Grail War. The mercenary mage, the mage killer, Kiritsugu Emiya, discovers the corruption of the Holy Grail and orders his servant, Artoria Pendragon, to destroy it with her remaining energy. This man, who had fought in the war for the sake of the world's salvation, believed he was saving lives by putting an end to the Grail, but had no idea his rival, Kirei Kotomine, had already wished upon the Grail for humanity's destruction. Thus, instead of being demolished, the Grail unleashes a vast ocean of cursed mud, igniting a part of Fuyuki City in a devastating fire. Shirou, only a young child, is caught in the center of the chaos. His parents are killed in the flames, and he too is brought to the verge of death. Clinging to life, he treads through the rubble, passing by countless casualties, corpses abound, until he drops to the ground and awaits his demise. Kiritsugu, hoping to save humanity, now witnesses far more death than he ever could have fathomed, and rushes into the inferno, searching to save someone, anyone, from his mistake. Desperate and broken, he digs through the wreckage until finding Shirou collapsed on the ground. In order to save the boy, Kiritsugu implants in him Artoria's scabbard, Avalon. In possession of the great sheath, Shirou's body begins to heal. He looks up at Kiritsugu, noticing the overwhelming relief and joy upon his face. After the fire dissipates, Shirou is admitted to the hospital, along with several other children, orphaned due to the disaster. There, he's visited by Kiritsugu, who offers to adopt him and become his guardian. Kiritsugu honestly reveals his identity as a magus for full disclosure. Inspired by the memory he has of Kiritsugu during the fire, he accepts the offer and becomes Shirou Emiya. For the next 2 years, Shirou lives with Kiritsugu at the Emiya estate, idolizing him and his aspirations to be a hero of justice. During this time, Shirou meets and grows close to his future teacher, Taiga Fujimura, whose family assisted Kiritsugu. Knowing that his new father is a magus, Shirou begs Kiritsugu to teach him magecraft. After nagging incessantly, Kiritsugu agrees, but does so unconventionally, giving Shirou an incomplete education in magic, not even passing down his magic crest. Sadly, Kiritsugu is slowly dying due to the curses of the Grail's mud. In his final moments, he sits beside Shirou, lamenting how he could never become the hero of justice he strove to be. With comfort and ambition, Shirou declares that he will become a hero in his father's place. This affirmation relieves Kiritsugu, and he passes on peacefully. Shirou attends school with the help of the Fujimuras and meets Shinji and Sakura Mato during middle school. Despite Shinji's poor attitude, the two become unconventional friends. Of course, wanting to follow in Kiritsugu's footsteps, Shirou continues to practice magecraft at night, using the only form he knows, reinforcement. Sadly, because Kiritsugu hadn't taught him properly, the process is painful, dangerous, and ultimately fruitless. One evening in middle school, Rin Tosaka passes by Shirou's track field and witnesses him practicing the high jump in solitude. His stubborn dedication becomes a treasured memory to her. Once in high school, Shirou joins the archery club and succeeds brilliantly, only ever missing his target once. Even then, he knew in advance his arrow would miss. After hours, he works a nighttime job at a bar, during which he fractures his right shoulder and incurs a burn mark. While recovering, he is cared for by Sakura, who frequents his home to make him meals. He discovers that Sakura is being abused by Shinji, and their tension causes Shirou to quit the archery club and focus on his part-time work. He spends his high school days in service to his classmates, particularly his friend Issei Ryudo, the student council president, by repairing broken equipment. He is completely selfless, never hesitating to inconvenience himself for the sake of others. In his own naive way, he lives according to his image of a hero of justice, balancing his guilt for being one of the few survivors of the Great Inferno. 10 years after that incident, the Fifth Holy Grail War begins, and Shirou is caught up in the fighting, chosen as a master with command seals of his own. He witnesses a fight between Lancer and Rin's servant, Archer, and is impaled by Lancer to keep him silent. Once again on the verge of death, Shirou's life is saved when Rin arrives and heals him using the mana she stored in a red pendant. When he comes to, unsure of who saved him, Shirou keeps possession of the pendant as gratitude. Later, when Lancer comes to finish him off, Shirou makes his way into the abandoned workshop of his estate and accidentally summons Artoria Pendragon from an old magic circle. Artoria saves Shirou and joins him as a servant in the Holy Grail War. Upon discovering that the Fourth Holy Grail War was to blame for the Great Fire, Shirou sets out to keep people away from the Grail's power to prevent catastrophe. While Artoria initially covets the Grail for her own reasons, the two ultimately team up to win the war and subsequently destroy the Grail once more. Sadly, while he understands Artoria's internal struggle, he is unable to save her. During the fighting, Shirou awakens to the idea that while he was taught reinforcement magic, his real talent is in projection, allowing him to create swords and other weapons simply by visualizing them and their internal components. With the Grail War over, Shirou is left to his own devices, still clinging to the idea of becoming a hero of justice. He joins Rin to study magecraft in London, before traveling as a freelance mercenary. Unfortunately, despite his tireless dedication, he finds himself too weak to overcome the great foes he encounters. As an adult, he faces a crisis threatening the lives of 100 victims, and realizes that he cannot save them on his own. The counterforce appears before him, and he strikes a deal to obtain power in exchange for becoming a counter-guardian, sent across time to defend the human race from destruction. In doing so, he is unconventionally inscribed into the Throne of Heroes as Heroic Spirit Emiya. Through repeated use of projection magic, his hair turns white and his eyes pale. For the remainder of his life, he fights to put an end to a horrific war, but is ultimately betrayed by those he hoped to save. They mistake him as the mastermind behind the war and execute him. While he initially thinks that becoming a counter-guardian will allow him to better save humanity, his role under the counterforce is ironically that of an executioner. He is repeatedly tasked to clean up after humanity by killing evil parties. While it is true his actions save more than those he kills, doing so leaves him surrounded by corpses. His ideals of justice, saving everyone, are destroyed by the harsh reality of his actions. Ultimately, he denies his ideals and regrets his decision. Emiya is not a heroic spirit due to fame, but rather via bargain. His knack for projection magic, however, manifests itself in the form of a reality marble, unlimited blade works, where he can easily access the full breadth of his imitated and original sword designs. While most of his swords, noble phantasms, come from imitating legendary weapons, he encounters the unclaimed short swords, Kansho and Bakuya. Apart from pulling swords out of thin air and launching them like projectiles, he possesses a magic shield, Ro Aias, based upon the Greek warrior Aias the Great. Stuck in a nearly endless cycle of murder, Emiya believes that the only way to break free is to return to a time before he became a guardian and kill his former self. His chance comes when Rin summons him back into the Fifth Holy Grail War, this time as an archer-class servant. This is because he kept Rin's pendant ever since she saved his life, and the pendant, now existing in 2 timelines, serves as a catalyst to summon him. Originally, Archer never tried to kill Shirou because Artoria injured him during their first bout and uses his remaining strength to save Rin from Berserker. But conditions change, and Emiya remains strong and capable. He dedicates his efforts toward killing Shirou multiple times throughout the war, and is chastised by Rin for his actions, even being ordered by Command Seal not to harm Shirou. Ultimately, he breaks free from Rin with the help of Castor's Rulebreaker, and joins her side in order to eliminate Shirou. He also betrays Castor and her master, revealing his true goal. He kidnaps Rin and challenges Shirou to battle at the Einsburn mansion as a last-ditch effort before his mana depletes. In a violent showdown, Emiya and Shirou fight one another, and with each clash of their blades, Shirou inherits Emiya's talents as a warrior. Through sheer determination and will, Shirou is able to convince his future self that he will not grow up to regret his ideals, even if they are copied from Kiritsugu. Being convinced by Shirou's words, Archer loses the fight, allowing himself to be stabbed. In the aftermath of their duel, Emiya is attacked by Gilgamesh and manages to escape, despite appearing to have been defeated. A special trait of being an Archer-class servant allows him to have independent action and survive on his own mana longer than usual. With a change of heart, Emiya reserves his strength and uses it to save Reen from the mutated Grail and finish Gilgamesh once and for all. In his final moments, Emiya reveals himself to Reen, no longer burdened with regret, asking her to take care of his younger self. This new Shirou, who had defeated his other self in battle, gains a more resolute idealism and even manages to mostly defeat Gilgamesh and the Gate of Babylon using his unlimited blade works. After the war, Shirou again joins Reen at the clock tower, this time staying by her side as a lifelong partner, ending on a more hopeful note. Of course, Emiya's exploits go far and wide, involving not only his personal confrontation with himself, but plenty of alternate possibilities. But alas, those are for another time. Thanks guys for requesting I make this lore video. If you enjoyed it, then please consider becoming one of our channel's patrons. We offer rewards for each tier of payment, ranging from early access to our videos to requesting a video of your very own. As always, don't forget to share this video and subscribe to OtakuDaiKun for more anime lists, reviews, discussions, lore videos, let's plays, and the Holy Waifu Wars. Until next time, celebrate your fandom.